So for some reason, every time I want to make like an actual serious video, I just keep dragging my feet. Hi guys, this is Connie, and I knew I was probably going to have to do this video sometime this month because it's October. I know, at least for me, most times when I hear about October, it's like Breast Cancer Awareness Month, which is important. But I've also found out in the last year that it is also another month of remembrance. And because I can never remember, I have the picture that I posted on most of my social media things. October is Miscarriage and Baby Loss Awareness Month. Some people say infant loss. There's no nice way to say, hey, I lost a child. And so we remember it in the month of October. And with that wonderful minute-long intro of me babbling, I wanted to share my story because I've recently watched it. The timeliness is specifically because I saw somebody on Twitter who had just said, hey, I need to take a break because I'm experiencing this loss. And I know videos on YouTube are there forever. So to make this a bit more timely and timeless, I've in the last, well, I'd have to say the last 2 years since Mustachio and I have tried to start expanding our family, I became very well aware and personally acquainted with miscarriage and loss, and in a way that I had never initially expected. So when I first had friends who were walking through various forms of loss and miscarriages specifically, and then hearing other people's stories as time went on, and then experiencing my own miscarriage. Before experiencing my own miscarriage, a part of me was like, why aren't more people talking about this? Why is this such a taboo subject? You know, this apparently happens pretty commonly, like not in a way that makes me say I should be prepared for it to happen in my own life and I should be scared of pregnancy. There's plenty of other things that you could be scared of in pregnancy, but it wasn't something I was really timid about going into getting pregnant. And then I had my own miscarriage, and that didn't increase fear to me, but it made it very real and very personal for me as to now I understand why some people just don't want to talk about it, because of some people don't want to deal with all the things that it brings up, all the insecurities, all of those things that you start to question in your own life, in your own faith, in just humanity and God and all of those things. And many of them are various rabbit trails that can be spoken in another video. So I learned very quickly. I was like, oh, this is why nobody wants to talk about it, because it's a very personal thing. It's a very painful thing. And lots of people process their loss and their grief in various different ways. And if there's one thing I have learned, is that it's completely normal to grieve. Grief looks completely different on so many different people, and it's tough. And some people shut down and shut off, and they just don't, they want to block it from their memories because it was so painful. And there was definitely a time, I'd have to say the first month of dealing with my loss, I was a hot mess, and I was in so much shock and I was in so much pain. I never wanted to even think about it. Whew, don't, this is normal too. But after hearing so many people share their hearts and share their stories, it is encouraging and it is a comfort to know that I'm not alone. While every story can be vastly different in their details, loss is loss, and everybody experiences it in some way, shape, or form. And it's worth walking through the process. Not always the easiest thing, but totally worth eventually sharing, hey, Me too. I actually talked about this just in my own car by myself for like an hour earlier in the week. There's no time limit on grief, and that can be incredibly frustrating too, because it's frustrating to anticipate that somewhere in my future, after having a family and having great memories and, you know, more victories and triumphs and ups and downs in life, there could always be one day or one thing that just and all of it comes back. But it's okay. It's okay to cry, it's okay to grieve, and it's okay to move forward. There's no way that anybody just gets over a loss like that, regardless of how long you carried your child. Whether it's considered a chemical pregnancy, ectopic pregnancy. A lot of people really, really, really are desiring to have their own kids. So for them, that loss is incredibly real, no matter how big or how small their child actually was. So it's important to just, and it's okay to bring it up. There's a time and a place, and there are the right words to say. As a side note, in personal experience in the past, while I love my friends very, very much, as a sidebar, please do not try to share some encouraging word at somebody else's baby shower. There is a time and a place for that. And while we are celebrating somebody else, it's not about me at that point. We're there to celebrate somebody else. And it felt very inappropriate and just kind of downright rude to pull me aside and say something to me, because that's not what this time and place was about. I digress. So, yeah. Yeah, without getting into faith things, because at one point in time, I was like, if I hear one more person quote the scripture that God is close to the brokenhearted, I'm going to snap. And it's not to discount the fact that it's true. And if you call out to God, I really believe that He will be near to you. And God knows how to speak. Connie, God knows how to speak to every person's heart. And He doesn't need me to say anything further than that. He can prove Himself. And I do truly believe that if you ask God, eventually, not always on my time, on His time, or however you wish to understand who God is, you will find peace. As, you know, people who seek the truth will find it. And I do have a lot of peace and a lot of hope moving forward. That God is faithful, and I trust Him, and I've learned just even in my own life that there is hope, and there is support, and there is continued love. And even though, oh, this is going to sound so cliche, because a lot of people say it, even in like tough, terrible storms, eventually those storms pass, and the rainwater makes things grow, and terrible things can eventually bring about some good results. Which sounds cliche, like bad things have to happen in order for good things to happen. That's not the case. We live in a busted, broken, imperfect world, and bad things happen sometimes, and other times there's not going to be a real explanation to it. But there is always hope, there's always another breath, and there's always a new day. And you never get over it, but you do. You do. If you decide to, you can move forward and continue to see the silver lining in everything that goes on in your life. So, wow, that was 10 minutes. Wow, that was deep. And wow, I cried way too much. I always joke that if I could be a professional crier, I'd be like a gazillionaire. Anyhow, I hope that this helps whoever needs to hear it, whoever needs to see it. Know that you are not alone, and that there is support if you want to seek out support. There are people that you can talk to one-on-one and hear their stories and be encouraged by it, and share in those frustrations, those good, those bad, those ugly cry-faced moments with one another. So be careful with that and enjoy, please and thank you. And I guess this month's a great month to wear this. A friend of mine got me this after my miscarriage. And I called my little one Button. Our first baby was called Baby Button Try-On. And so they sent me this along with a medallion that says, "Someone I loved was never born." And so I found that like at first it could be a bit daunting because it's very blunt, but it's also very true, and I found it very very sweet that someone took that time and effort to give me something that I could actually hold on to, that I could wear. So that was just me and where I'm at. And yeah, the chapter might be over, but the story's not done. And I'm always grateful for that.